Hey, MCARBO brother. I'm Chris Nelson, president of MCARBO. Really excited to introduce the new AK-47 Extra Power Recoil Spring for your AK-47. Works for all the Kalashnikov family firearms, the AK-47, the AKM, the Dracos, you're covered. So this recoil spring is 15% stronger than what the original factory is. A lot of these springs in here are surplus and really worn out. If you've got an AK, ton of rounds through it, or you bought a used AK, highly recommend replacing that recoil spring. What'll happen is when the bulk carrier is coming back, it's going to impact that rear trunnion, all right? And a lot of these AKs are overgassed, so that recoil is pretty significant. You get a lot of rearward momentum hitting that rear trunnion. That bulk carrier is slamming into the rear trunnion, effectively doing what it's not supposed to do if it had an adequate recoil spring in place. So these extra power recoil springs are going to really help just improve the cycling operations, just improve the overall performance, and not to mention protect your AK-47. Let's get on over to tabletop, show you how we did this. Parts and tools needed for this build: the AK-47 Extra Power Recoil Spring by MCARBO, a bench block, and highly recommend wearing an iPro for this one. As always, let's take this opportunity to check our firearms together, make sure they're clear. Check the chamber, check the bolt face, check the magazine well. This firearm's clear. All right, so disassembly is really straightforward. We just need to remove the dust cover. We do that by pushing in on this recoil assembly right here. So you'll push in, hear that little snap, remove the cover, just like that. Set it down. You'll notice your recoil spring assembly right here, how it locks right in these notches right here on the rear trunnion. One of the major improvements this extra power recoil spring is going to do for the AK is it's going to help reduce this impact from the bolt carrier on the rear trunnion back here. This lighter spring is going to allow this sort of impact every time. And what that's going to do, it's going to actually obviously abuse the bolt carrier, the rear trunnion, and also these rivets are going to wallow out over time. So it's not necessary to have that sort of clunky rear impact every time. We don't want that. So with the extra power recoil spring, it's 15% stronger than the factory. It's going to allow this AK to cycle more efficiently. It's going to prevent unnecessary wear and damage to the AK internally. And it's going to help all around performance. So all we have to do now is just push forward on the recoil spring assembly. Just slides right out, just like that. Real simple and easy. You can see here's the recoil spring assembly. All right, notice all the dead coils here on the factory spring. You won't see that on the MCARBO spring. So we'll set the AK aside for a second and let's go ahead and focus on removing the recoil spring from the assembly. All right, so in the recoil spring assembly, you can see here's this button right here that we push to remove the dust cover. And inside you can see this guide rod that bends in half. All right, and then there's a little cap on the front here where it just kind of clasps together around it. You'll see in a second. All right, so we're going to put this little button end of the recoil spring assembly into the bench block. All right, you want to push straight down. You don't want this sliding all over the table on you. The other thing is one hand right in the middle to keep it from bending and wobbling. Other hand choked up high, and you're going to push straight down. And what we want to do is get past that little connection point on the guide rod here. You can see where it connects. All right, because what we'll do is we'll pull this up just like that, and we'll just push it over, kind of like a T. And that's going to hold it captured for you, making it a lot easier to remove this little cap on the end. All right, so there's the recoil spring assembly cap. It's universal. It doesn't matter which way it goes in. There's same dimensions on both sides. We'll pry this little wire apart on the recoil spring guide, and it just pops out like that. And you'll see it locates in that hole right there in the middle. It's a real simple design, really easy. All right, we'll set that cap down. Next, we'll just push back down on the spring, and we're going to slide that wire through the guide rod wire and slowly allow the spring to slide up. This is a great time to have that iPro. It's under a lot of tension there. All right, and then it slides right out. And you can see how this guide works now. Real simple concept. Works well though. Here's the factory spring. These are the dead coils I was talking about. They don't do anything. They just take up space. That's it. And this wire diameter is smaller as well compared to the MCARBO spring, so it's not gonna have as much tension as the extra power spring we've got here. So this is the MCARBO extra power spring. We'll put them side by side. They're easy to tell apart because the factory spring has those dead coils I was pointing out. All right, so here's the MCARBO spring down here. You can see it's slightly longer than what was in the AK originally. This spring is weaker, and obviously it's been under tension for a long time as well, so that's going to be a factor. They will compress over time. So brand new spring is not going to look exactly the same. It'll be a little longer, but it will compress and give you all that tension you want. So this is the MCARBO Extra Power Recoil Spring here. You can see larger wire diameter and coils all the way through. No dead coils at the end. So you're covered there. You've got plenty of good tension, and man, this does a heck of a job. It is really impressive. One of our gunsmiths here, he loves the AK, and you know, it's hard to get him to say he really likes something, but he was like, I really like that. So he's got them for his now. It's just a really common sense, simple upgrade. It just, you know, it's one of those things, is like, oh, why was I shooting that way before? Why did I have to absorb all that heavy impact, crappy, clunky recoil? You just don't need it. So, and these are wear items as well. So if you've got an AK and you put a ton of rounds through it, highly recommend replacing this to preserve your firearm. So we can go ahead and put the factory spring aside. Let's focus on installing the extra power recoil spring. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and put in the extra power recoil spring. Might be handy to have like a little tiny micro tip flathead or some kind of pick or something. You'll see here in a second. All right, so what we'll do is we'll take the guide rod, little wire guide rod. Make sure this little tip isn't like this. You want it like this so it'll feed through easily. You don't want it grabbing each coil on the way in. So we'll go ahead and we'll start feeding in the guide rod. It's probably gonna double up like this on top of each other. That's fine. Put the base in the bench block, and we're gonna compress it. Definitely make sure you're wearing that eye pro. All right, we get to this point right here, your little micro tip or your pick or whatever, just to grab that guide rod, because we want to get it through and then pull it over into a T just like that. All right, so the spring is captured, good. Now what we can do is take that little cap, goes on the end of the guide rod, remember it's universal, and we'll just spread the wire apart and get it to capture in each of those holes right there. And you want to make sure it's completely captured. So you can see it's captured on both ends there, good, simple and easy. Now what we need to do is slowly release the tension. I'm just gonna go right back on the bench block here. And what you'll do is you'll kind of feed it through. So we're gonna have one hand holding it, the other is going to straighten up that guide rod and just let it slowly kind of feed through your hands, and there you go. Simple as that. So it's all captured under tension. Perfect. Now we can put this baby in and rest easy knowing we've got some good protection for AK-47. It's gonna actually cycle better. It's gonna help with that over-gassing scenario where a lot of those gas ports are just drilled out too wide, causing that over-gas effect where you're getting way more recoil than you're supposed to, getting that bolt carrier to hit the rear trunnion, a bad thing. We don't want to induce extra wear on the firearm, not to mention these springs are a wear item that do need to be replaced. So if you've got, you know, a good amount of ammo through these AKs and it's a stock spring and maybe you got it used, replace this, good insurance. All right, let's go ahead and put it back in the AK. So you just slide it in, it's a bolt carrier, and then we're gonna compress the recoil spring assembly and it's gonna slide right into these notches right here on the rear trunnion. All right, so you just compress it and it slides right in like that. All right, good, we're all captured. Now we'll take the dust cover, we'll put that back in, it lines up in that little cavity right there, that little notch, while holding forward on the dust cover, pushing it this way, and then pushing straight down onto that recoil spring. It's gonna be under some tension, so it's gonna snap in place once we get it lined up perfectly. The key is to keep it forward and then pushing down, just like that. There we go. It's all back in place, we're good to go. Do a quick little function check. All right, slide operates perfectly. Go ahead and pull the trigger, nice. Rack it, reset, there we go. Let's check the safety, good. Beautiful. Well, there you have it, guys. The AK-47 Extra Power Recoil Spring works the entire Kalashnikov family of AKs, the AKM, the Dracos, you got it. It's all AK-47, it's good, it's compatible. So we're really excited about it. If you got an old surplus spring, you got a spring, you don't know how old it is, highly recommend doing it anyway. It's good insurance. You don't want to have unnecessary impact on that rear trunnion back here. You don't want to abuse your AK more than you need to. I mean, these things can take a beating, but we still don't want to destroy them. Really excited about it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you found it informative. If you did, give us a like, subscribe. We always appreciate that on the YouTube. Feel free to leave some comments below. We always enjoy interacting with you guys. Thank you, MCARBO Brotherhood, for all your ideas and your support. As always, happy shooting.